It's a mailbag episode. We asked for questions. You guys gave us a lot. We'll get into as many as we can, talking about roster construction, what do the Dodgers still need to do, is James Outman untouchable, and a lot more. So let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. This is the daily episode covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to become an everydayer, all you have to do is listen or watch every single day, and you can make that easier by subscribing wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. And right now, new customers get a $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. If this is your first time listening or watching, I'm Vince Samperio, and I'm usually joined by co-host Jeff Snider. But it's just me today, and Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that have covered the team for more than a few years now. We've been in the press box, been in the locker room. We've written about the team. We've reported about the team. And now we're here doing this podcast for you guys every Monday through Friday, talking Dodgers for about 30 minutes, part of your hopefully daily commute, daily routine, daily whatever. We're part of it. If you're an everydayer, we're with you every day. And we're here to talk Dodgers again today. No real news in the Dodger world, no real news in the baseball world. And, it feels like nothing's going to happen until the new year at this point. And that means that we wanted to see what you guys wanted to hear from and hear about. And that means taking questions from you guys. We put out a call on Twitter and we got some good questions. So I'm just going to hop right into them. Some of them are covering the same topic, so I'll try to loop some of those together. But the first one is interesting, and it comes from Jerry at Jerry_J_Villa or Villa. Is James Outman untouchable in trade talks? If not, who is worth including him in a trade for? And I saw somebody, I think from Just Baseball, had James Outman in a potential trade to the Guardians for Clase. And James Outman is not going to get traded for Emmanuel Clase. I wouldn't say James Outman is untouchable 100%, but you'd have to be getting somebody that's a starting caliber player on offense. Realistically, I don't even know if it makes sense to trade him for a starting pitcher at this point. Maybe Dylan Cease would be one guy that you could, if they said, hey, James Outman for Dylan Cease straight up, I think that's one way the Dodgers will go about it. Then they can, maybe go sign somebody, like a Cody Bellinger or someone to that nature, or open it up and go trade for somebody else to play off this spot. But James Outman, as of right now, is a starting everyday center fielder for the Dodgers. That's where he ended up the season at last year. That's what he's going to be, heading into this season. And you don't trade an everyday starter on your team for somebody, Class A specifically, somebody who's going to affect, 60, 70 games a year. That's, not realistic. Like I said, for somebody, Outman at this point is somebody that is going to be a starter for and with team control for a long time. So he has a lot of value. Like I said, Dylan Cease, maybe, a rental. Corbin Burns, no, definitely not, Shane Bieber. I don't even know, if it was a Randy Arozarena, even then you're basically, trading a starter for a starter. So you're not necessarily gaining anything. In that sense, it would make more sense for the Dodgers to trade from their prospect depth rather than trade somebody that's supposed to be an everyday contributor for them. So I can't see James Outman getting traded. It would take somebody, an all-star level player coming back that is going to be a legitimate help to the Dodgers, not only in the regular season, but in the postseason specifically. So that's where we're at with Outman. Good question. We got one question from Hustler Spirit at GetFunded01. He says, Josh Hader or nah, we need a solid closer. I would quibble with the fact that the Dodgers need a solid closer. I definitely think that, at this point, the way the roster is built, you can add to the starting rotation, you can add to the bullpen, you can add to the starting lineup, and it all would benefit them. Somebody like Hader, would he help the Dodgers? Would he make them better? Yes. I'm not going to say they don't need a guy like Josh Hader, or they wouldn't welcome a guy like Josh Hader, but I don't think, Evan Phillips is a very capable closer. I would like if, they were able to find someone else, and then Evan Phillips becomes that fireman type again, where he can come into any situation that they need. That's the most important, inning or outs of the game. I would like that. And obviously Josh Hader is someone who would help with that role. There was a report earlier in the day that he was looking to get a deal bigger than Edwin Diaz's 5 years, $102 million. I don't think the Dodgers would be in on that at all. And realistically, that's probably why he hasn't been signed yet. I don't think any teams are in on a guy like Hader for that much. More specifically, because, obviously you'd have to talk to him and work with him. But from all reports and everything else we've gotten the last few years, it's, Josh Hader prefers not to pitch on back-to-back days. Josh Hader prefers not to go more than one inning. And, I don't know if that was, okay, I'm on my, I'm still on team control. I'm not necessarily, stable enough to risk hurting myself by pitching more than I need to. And now if you sign him to a long-term deal, okay, now I'm open to, have security now in the form of money. And now I feel more comfortable going, 4 or 5 outs, or pitching back-to-back days, or, pitching 3 out of 4 days. I don't know. That would be a conversation, any team would have to have who's trying to sign him. But for Hader specifically, again, if he's looking for that big a deal, I don't think he gets it. And realistically, the market full of teams that would be, really interested or needing him is not as strong as you may think. The Rangers were linked to him a lot early on. The Rangers are working on, their own issues in terms of having cash money to pay players because of their deal with their TV. They were linked to Jordan Montgomery and Josh Hader a lot to start the offseason, and that's kind of dwindled a little bit unless they figure out whatever that issue is going for them. The Yankees could go after Hader in the sense of that they didn't get Yamamoto, so they can strengthen their bullpen instead of going after, a top-tier starter. There's obviously a lot of teams, any team in the league could use Josh Hader. There's, very few teams that have a closer better. The Mets would be one of them, assuming, Diaz comes back healthy. Beyond that, Emmanuel Clase might be another one of them. Beyond that, there's teams that anyone could use him. But when it comes down to what the contract he's looking for, I don't think the Dodgers are in on that. And again, anything they get in terms of bullpen is a bit of a luxury at this point. They should have enough arms right now to, make it work in terms of the bullpen, to have the bullpen be a strength, especially, assuming guys pitch how they've pitched in the past. And that's always the hard part because, last year, Alex Vesia struggled early on, and, guys that you were expecting to be a cog in your bullpen weren't pitching very well, were either struggling to adjust to the pitch clock or whatever the case was. And, you can't count on continuity in the bullpen. But the Dodgers, assuming they don't use some of their other young arms to get a starting pitcher or to get an outfielder or someone like that, they have Kyle Hurt, they have, Landon Knack, they have Nick Frosta, who could potentially be bullpen pieces to help out and expand the bullpen, because you're really looking to expand the bullpen more so than an actual closer. Evan Phillips can be your closer and he'll be fine. But that's also, makes Bruce Dark-Graterol and Joe Kelly, that much more important. And then, Blake Trinan and JPA Fireeisen coming off injury, making them more important. So, to hedge your bets, you can always find somebody that's an elite closer and then bump everybody back a spot. And that's where Josh Hader makes sense. But again, it's going to come down to what type of money he ends up getting, what his market is. And if the Dodgers feel like the price is right, I feel like they would entertain the idea. And if not, then they wouldn't. So There's more questions about roster construction. We're going to get into all that. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet, because that's because the weather gets colder, then if offers stay hot on FanDuel. And what is a moneyline bet? All you have to do is pick which team will win. Last night, if you had chosen the Browns to win and put at least $5 on it, you'd have $150 of bonus bets in your FanDuel account this morning. So go check out FanDuel right now. There's no better time to get in on the action. Look at the last 2 weeks of NFL, then the playoffs. If your team's not in it, what's a fun way to make sure you are all in on the action? FanDuel, and putting down bets and money line bets, using those bonus bet money. The app's easy to use. They got a bunch of different bet spreads, player props, over-unders, more. You can make your time more fun watching NFL, especially if your team's not in it. So visit FanDuel.com/locked on and get in on all the NFL action. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Make sure to become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. We're here for you every Monday through Friday for about 30 minutes, where we get podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search Locked On Dodgers. And remember that Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, has 2 streaming sports channels that may service you. Locked On Sports Today covers all sports from all members of the Locked On Podcast Network and touching on the biggest stories around the biggest sports around the nation. So you can check out Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe. You can also subscribe to Locked On Sports Los Angeles, where you'll see us and you'll see all the other hosts of the Locked On shows from teams in Los Angeles, and get caught up. If you're a fan of all the teams in LA, that's easy for you to get caught up with. Just throw that streaming channel on. It's on all day, and you can get all your news. So let's get back into the questions. We're going to talk about a variety of questions that we got, and they all kind of come down to roster construction. One of them is from Julian at Julian_what, and he asks, who are they looking at adding? Looks like they want to add one more starter since Walker will be held back for the start of the season. Who do you think they're looking at? And for another bat, who do you think they're looking at? We got one from That Kid J at That Kid J23. What's more important, another starter or a right-handed bat in left field? And then Josh Gitt at Josh Gitt 1214 says, who would you add as a right-handed bat in the outfield? And then Dodgers Rules 1 at Tim. He says, do you see the Dodgers making even more of a major splash? So, yeah, obviously this was a topic that we've talked about a lot in the last few weeks. And, you guys, if you've been listening and if you haven't, the number one thing on our minds, Jeff and I, is Randy Arozarena for left field. It doesn't appear as likely as it was before, but, maybe after the arbitration number comes out for him, maybe the Rays don't love it. And, maybe they look to shed more payroll, and the Dodgers are there welcoming Randy with open arms. We actually got a question about that specifically from somebody asked what a package for a Arozarena would look like. I can't find it right now, but yeah, I mean, again, from Sal Hernandez, at Sal Hernandez 01, the most likely trade package that could bring Randy. So yeah, Randy's number one. A trade package, I think, would include one of the young pitchers in Knack or Frasso or Kyle Hurt or Gavin Stone. And then I think, probably at this point we're throwing Michael Busch into all trades, just because it doesn't look like they're going to give him a chance for any runway to be a legitimate, player in terms of getting a lot of playing time or a majority of playing time. We could be wrong. They could be thinking about him for a bigger role in 2024, but it doesn't seem likely. So, Michael Busch, one of the young starters, and maybe, a flyer type prospect, I think would be able to get it done. Randy comes with a couple of years of team control. So, you're going to have to give up a little bit more than you might if he was just a rental. But I think that would be the general package for there. In terms of what's more important, a starter or a bat, I think and we said this. I think the Dodgers, as currently built, are fine. They could enter opening day with this current roster, and they would still be a favorite, if not the favorite, to win the World Series. They'd still be a very good team. They'd still probably win 100 games, and everything would be fine. I think for me personally, I think the starting pitcher is more important, just because you're hedging against a lot. You're making sure your guys are able to stay healthy, and you're giving yourself, realistically, they're going to go for an innings eater type starter rather than, high upside. Shane Bieber could be a high upside guy, but he might not be the most healthiest pitcher to go after. Or a guy, like Dylan Cease obviously has high upside and has been able to throw a lot the last few years. Corbin Burns one more year. I think, for a starter, you don't need to go a number one or two guy. Those guys are still available and they can still do it. But you do need somebody that's going to be able to go out there every fifth day and give you, 5-6 innings of just okay, baseball. Guys like Lucas Giolito, Sean Manaea, guys like that make sense. Just because we've seen how many pitchers the Dodgers can go through in a year. You still want to protect the young guys. You still, Walker Buehler is going to be handled very carefully. Glasnow and Yamamoto will get handled a little bit more carefully. Just because coming off injury for Glasnow, still not fully all the way back. You want to make sure everyone's healthy for October. So I think a starting pitcher makes more sense. Whereas on the hitting side, you could do a lot worse than Chris Taylor being your everyday left fielder, or your left fielder against left-handed pitch, or whatever the case. Your everyday left fielder. You could do a lot worse than Chris Taylor being that guy. That also calls into, affect one of the young guys, whether it's Vargas, whether it's Bush, learning left field enough for the Dodgers to be comfortable to give them some regular at-bats and playing the outfield, or moving Mookie off second back into the outfield, getting Hayward in center and Outman and whatever the case is, and letting, Bush or Vargas play second base. I think it's not when you have Mookie, Freddie, Ohtani, Will Smith, Max Muncy as your top five, I think you're in a good spot offensively to where, you don't need to go get another all-star caliber player or another, full-time player out there in the field. And again, do we want one? Yes. Have we talked about, guys like Teoscar Hernandez and before, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and guys like that? Yeah, we've talked about him. And I still think a guy like Teoscar makes sense, although his market is starting to heat up. It's reported that the Dodgers' interest in him is going down a little bit, since it looks like he might get a big multi-year deal now. But regardless, I think starting pitching is the more important thing to go after, just because, you might need 10 starters to get through the season realistically. And you can't count on, Bobby Miller to either one, replicate his success, and two, be ready for a full bore season from start to finish in the major leagues. Emmett Sheehan, you're not going to go out and throw him 180 innings next year. I don't think so. Tyler Glasnow, you might want him to throw, once a week, or, 4 or 5 times a month rather than 6 times a month, something like that. Yamamoto as well. He's used to pitching, once a week. He has to make that adjustment. So I think, they're going to handle. And Brandon Gomes was asked about this after the Yamamoto press conference, about if the Dodgers are going to use a 6-man rotation. And he wouldn't commit to saying the Dodgers would use a 6-man rotation, but he did say that he believes that they've done enough they've shown in past years that they're able to move enough guys around in order to make sure that everybody is good and everybody, can stay healthy if they need to, or get the rest they need. So while they might not have a legitimate 6-man rotation, they're definitely going to have, utilize days with no days off, maybe get an extra arm in there, or utilizing off days to not skip, your number 5 starter and keep everybody, 1 through 5 on a rotating basis. So whatever the case is, the Dodgers are going to be looking out for their arms, but I still do think a starting pitcher makes more sense right now. But, obviously both would work very well for the Dodgers and wouldn't be, too much overkill. So we still have a few more questions that I will answer, so make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Logix. On this show, we get into a lot of in-depth analysis and, maybe have some strong opinions on things Well, we have a hot take today, and the hottest take of the day is the best lineup in LA right now is the lineup of auto loans at Logix. They start off the top with the proven and dependable new and used vehicle loans. These guys can be counted on to give you low rates and save you big time bucks and be that, dependable thing that you may need. But next up, they've got the exciting rookie sensation in their electric vehicle loans with super low rates and flexible payment terms. Go get you a car that you can plug in. Rounding out their lineup, they've got auto refinancing loans and lease buyout loans. With these guys, you could lower your monthly payments and get on the road to owning your car faster. Lower monthly payments means more money for Dodger tickets. And look, I know it's a hot take, but seriously, no one can beat this lineup at Logix. So visit your local Logix branch right here in LA and surrounding areas and let one of their amazing team members help you. Or just apply online in minutes at logixbanking.com/car. That's LOGIX banking.com/CAR. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Make sure to make us a part of your daily life Monday through Friday for about 30 minutes, whether you're on your way to work, at the gym, making breakfast, working from home, whatever the case is. Go check us out wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Remember, you can become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. You can have exclusive access to us through text and be able to ask us questions, suggest topics, things of that nature. Just general Dodger talk, maybe a little bit more elevated than some of your other group chats. So remember, join subtext.com/Locked On Dodgers and you can talk with us. All right, so let's round out these questions. We got a few more. We got one from our buddy Bryce over at Locked On Rangers. He's riding high this offseason. He says, how much do you miss Corey Seager? Corey Seager is definitely missed, but other than, World Series championships, the fact of what this offseason has brought for the Dodgers, makes you miss Corey Seager a little bit less. Obviously, had a hot postseason and won his second World Series title and second World Series MVP. But, the Dodgers are looking bright and on to the future. So we appreciate the question from Bryce, and congrats to you for being able to talk about a World Series champion team. SoCal Librarian, our buddy at SoCal_Librarian, she says, with Buehler coming back from TJ, Yamamoto used to pitching once a week, anticipate a 6-man rotation or maybe more bullpen games. Touched on this a little bit at the end of the last segment, but I don't expect a full 6-man rotation, but I definitely expect them to utilize the arms that they have right now, or, the ones that they add. And this will kind of lend itself into the next question from our buddy Kevin at Blue Goon 82. He says, seems like many fans want the Dodgers to keep being aggressive while he's hoping that Sheehan gets the 5th starter spot and Bush gets a shot in left field. He says, am I crazy enough to think that our core is elite enough to allow some young guys to get PT at some open positions? And no, I don't think it's a crazy thought to want that or even, believe in that. I think, us as Dodger fans at this point, we're spoiled and we kind of want every hole filled and leave no stone unturned. And, like I said, this team is good enough to start the regular season right now with how it's currently built. They'd be able to handle it in terms of pitching. They'd be able to handle it in terms of hitting. And, they'd be handle it in terms of bullpen. Now, Emmett Sheehan, for a good reason, has been the talk of the offseason among a lot of Dodger fans I've seen here on social media and in general. And he has the stuff to, he slotted in as that number 5 starter right now. And we can see why. He had a lot of good starts last year. He showed a lot of promise and definitely has the stuff to make it work. And, if the Dodgers went into the season with Emmett Sheehan as their number 5 starter, I have no issue with that. But again, if they want to get another starter in there and, kind of give everybody a little bit of a bubble, a little bit of a, a cushion, then I believe that's still right to do, especially if Walker Buehler does start the season a little slow, maybe a little bit delayed, not starting until maybe May or June, depending how slow they play him. You do want somebody else to kind of slot in there and give you a comfortable arm every 5th day that you don't have to worry about. Like if you sign, let's just say you signed a guy like Chaminade to a 1-year deal, or some pitcher, Ryu, whoever it is, to a 1-year deal, you don't have to be as, not that they're going to overwork them, but you don't have to be as cautious with them in terms of, oh, you can only pitch, 80 pitches a game and blah, blah, like you don't have to worry about that. With Sheehan, they can still have to worry about that. So, while he's definitely going to start in the rotation as it presently stands, I don't expect him to make 32 starts. So, there's definitely room there. And like I said, the Dodger offense is good enough right now to be able to handle not getting another outfielder, another starting caliber outfielder. But again, it's just one of those things where you kind of want every hole covered. Like right now, if you look at the Dodgers, you look at, left field could be a little bit of an issue. Who's going to put, right field is Margot and Hayward. Center field is Outman. Left field as of right now would be Chris Taylor, but, that could change. But you're looking at, what if Gavin Lux does struggle out of the gate, or what if it does take him a while to get his timing down, or what if, he just struggled. We obviously had the good year, then he got hurt last year, and you can't guarantee. So then you're looking at potentially two holes in your lineup when Chris Taylor gets cold or whoever else, and you're talking about Michael Busch getting it. I'd love to see Michael Busch get the shot if he's not traded this offseason for somebody else. I'd love to see him get a shot. But it's up to him to, hopefully be working on his outfield skills this entire offseason in order to be a passable left fielder. We've seen the Dodgers play with passable left fielders before, and I don't think it's that big an issue, especially if he's hitting. So, I wouldn't mind seeing Busch get that spot, or even Busch and Vargas kind of sharing that spot maybe, and then Taylor kind of fills in everywhere else. There's a lot of ways to go about it, but I don't see an issue with that. The Dodgers, do have it, but I think for Dodger fans, you kind of think to October and you think of, the guys they've given at bats to the last few years in key situations in the postseason. And, if you add another high quality outfielder to the mix, which pushes, a guy like Busch or Vargas or whoever to a bench spot, you're more comfortable with Michael Busch coming up in a key situation than guys that they've had in the past, Steven Souza Jr., Billy McKinney, even Colton Wong last year, like coming up in those potential spots. So I think that's what us Dodger fans are kind of looking out for. But, it's definitely, they've given guys the reign before. They gave Vargas the reign last year and it didn't quite work out. But they gave, Corey Seager the reign back in the day and he made it work and he became a superstar. And, Cody Bellinger did the same. Obviously, he came up because of injury a little bit, but then he worked his way and stayed up and didn't go back down ever again. And, went on to become an MVP and a superstar as well. So there's a chance for these guys to be able to shine on their own. But I think as us fans, we kind of want to hedge against that at this point, just because of, what we know this roster is capable of. And, you don't want to shortchange this core that they have right now by relying on, rookies or unproven talent. And not that it's the right move, but I definitely can see, why people feel that way. So, all right. We have a joke of a question, a funny one, though, from Eddie at Eddie C_89. Do you think getting Ohtani, Yamamoto, and Glasnow is enough to make up for the loss of Lance Lynn? I definitely think that makes up for the loss of Lance Lynn. Appreciate Lance Lynn for his regular season. Don't appreciate him as much for his postseason performance. But, yeah. We got one from at Jin Burt. He says, will Ohtani be able to close games in the 2024 playoffs? I can't see that happening. Second Tommy Johns usually take a little longer. He got his pretty late into the season. If we go by kind of what Walker Buehler did, he got his early in the season and tried to come back, and it didn't quite work out. So I got to imagine they're going to try to protect Ohtani at all costs. There's no way he's going to be able to pitch next year at all. Or even if he could, I don't think they would want him to. So, and we have a question from Carol Short to close it out at Zim was, what is Blake Treinen's status? As far as we know, his status will be that he'll be a piece of the Dodgers bullpen heading into spring training, assuming he's healthy and his stuff looks like it did before injury. He's going to be a key piece of the Dodger bullpen, but that remains to be seen, and that's always easier said than done. But that's the last update we've had. We haven't heard anything else from there. There is a question from Dave at Dave Say Yes about Dodger Stadium and about providing value. He's coming to Dodger Stadium for the first time in a while. I'll get into that next week. That's a little bit longer of an answer, and we're running out of time here. But appreciate all the questions that you guys provided. Some good questions. Able to sustain us for an entire episode. So we appreciate that. We will be back on Monday talking any news that happens over the weekend, talking Dave's question about where to sit at Dodger Stadium or where's the best place to sit. And, Jeff mentioned talking about Cody Bellinger. Maybe that's somebody we talk to. Maybe, we get some more rumors over the weekend or something like that, and, we can dive into them. So thank you all for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Make sure to become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. We're here for you every Monday through Friday for about 30 minutes. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Remember, Locked On Podcast Network has Locked On Sports Today, which is a 24/7 streaming channel covering national sports, and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, a 24/7 streaming channel covering all LA sports. So go check those out on YouTube and subscribe. Remember, you can become an insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers and text with us and, be bigger part of the conversation of the Locked On conversation. You can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM either of us for any questions, comments, or concerns, topics. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or if you're at home, tell your smart device by podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.